Hi there. I want to share some fascinating research that was groundbreaking for me in my leadership and my life. And it also went viral when I was at Google in terms of like interest across the organization, from like Fitbit to like organizations to VPs and directors in the organization that I was in. But I'm going to share that with you so you can kind of see the significance of it. So it came when a friend of mine, Sue Garber, recommended this article that she'd read called "Listening to Your Heart Could Be the Key to Conquering Anxiety" in Wired magazine a couple of years ago. And I was so intrigued by what I read there. I ended up reaching out to the researcher, who's now a professor of neuroscience at the University of College London, Sarah Garfinkel. And what really struck me in the article was that, in particular, it described how the way we think things have always worked is you see the snake, you get scared, your heart starts racing. But because of this body of work that she's focused on called interoception, the ability to tune into your inner signals, hunger, heartbeat, pain, emotion, the way it actually works is you see the snake, your heart starts racing, and then you get scared. The conscious mind is the last to know. And we have millions of sensors in our bodies that are picking up, um, these signals and know far before the conscious mind. So your body, reptilian evolutionary, is picking up on the snake before you consciously aware of it. And then your mind picks up on the heart racing. And it's like, oh my God, there must be something wrong. Starts panicking. So there were two studies that she did I thought were particularly interesting. One was a clinical trial with 120 autistic individuals. And people who are autistic have a comorbidity with anxiety. They have high levels of anxiety. So what she did was she did this trial where she asked them to estimate their heart rate without measuring anywhere on their body. And she compared it to the pulse ox that she was like hooked up to her computer. And she calculated the difference between them was their interoceptive accuracy. And most people would say, like, I don't know, I'll guess. So then what she did was she had them do some light exercise, jumping jacks or push-ups, whatever, so they could feel it, maybe in their temple or under their chin or in their arm or in their chest. But the point is they could feel it now. So their interoceptive accuracy was improved. And then what she did was, over the course of 6 sessions in this training, in this clinical trial, she was able to get them to dramatically improve their interoceptive accuracy. So much so that, um, well, okay, before that, as it was improving, their anxiety was correspondingly dropping. So much so that a third of them fully recovered from their anxiety, and a year later, with no additional intervention, were still recovered from their anxiety, which is groundbreaking in the field of mental health and autistic research. She got a multi-million-dollar grant just for that work alone. And given the levels of anxiety everywhere and all the time. So it's not about whether your heart's racing or slow. It's about how aware are you? How self-aware are you? How connected to your body? How much interoceptive awareness and accuracy do you have that determines whether or not you're going to be anxious, because your body is like responding to something. So it's like, it picks it up. So it's like, evolutionary. When we were in the caveman days, you needed that to pick up on the lion or the snake, whatever, for survival purposes. So that stayed with us. So now, it's like my body picks up on a signal, my mind starts panicking. If I'm connected to my body and I'm self-aware, I say, wait a minute, that's no lion coming after me or a snake that's trying to bite. That's my boss frowning at me. But for whatever reason, my body has responded to that because of trauma and triggers, whatever, and it's freaking out. I go into a version of fight or flight. If I can be aware, catch it early, then I can actually take some deep breaths, calm the body, and then the mind will calm. So it shows the value of the mind-body connection and the ability to then control things like anxiety, keep yourself out of fight or flight, maintain or increase intelligence. But anyway, the second study she did that was even more interesting to me was with a group, it was a small study, was a group of investment traders on the London Stock Exchange. And if you think about these people, these are day traders. They're having to make rapid buy-sell decisions with tons of information flying around, ticker tape and people yelling and screens and whatever. She did the same exercise. She asked them to estimate their heart rate without measuring anywhere on their body, compared it to the pulse ox, and calculated their interoceptive accuracy. What she found was those that had the high, she didn't improve it, she just measured it. Those that had the highest interoceptive accuracy had the highest P&L. They were making the most money. In other words, they were making the best buy-sell decisions. So she claims to have discovered the science of gut instinct or intuitive decision making. And the way it works is the conscious mind can't possibly process that much information in the time that they have to make a decision. It's too slow. But the subconscious, through the body, is processing millions of bits of data, like a supercomputer, even has an algorithm and an answer for those that are able to tune into it. So these individuals, like people would describe these particular individuals as that had really high interoceptive accuracy and high P&L. We don't know how they do it. They have really good gut instinct. And so essentially, The reason I was so interested in that is that if you think of leadership, for example, as your scope grows, you have more responsibility. You have to process more information with less time before you have to make a decision. Not as extreme as an investment trader, obviously, but heading down that path. So my hypothesis that we were testing was that those that are rising are making better decisions, and that's why they're getting promoted, they're rising. But they either have developed or were born with higher interceptive accuracy. But the amazing thing now is we have a metric, a methodology to improve it, and clinical research to back it up. So anyone can do it. And, the reason this was so relevant and interesting to me was that what I was experiencing, this is the kind of thing I was actually started experiencing. When I started working on myself and connecting to my body and doing more somatic practices and like healing the trauma and so on, I was picking up more signals from my body that I was now tuned into. And I was tapping into the processing power of the subconscious. And by healing the trauma and the wounds, I was clearing the subconscious of more bias and error. So basically, I was able to leverage a higher processing power, a faster processor to make decisions. So that's why I crashed and burned for 6 years at Google. And then in 1 year of like deepening my self-awareness, my team grew 10x and I was promoted to director, which was not remotely linear, and it was nowhere and anywhere on the path prior to that. And so if you think about it, 90% of communications, they say, is nonverbal. So AI, let's talk about AI for a second. People are really nervous about what AI is going to do. It's going to take our jobs and it's going to replace us and so on. If you're left brain dominant, AI can do what our left brains can do 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times better. It's faster and much more efficient. So if you're left brain dominant and you're like focusing on that, yeah, AI is a grave threat in that world. But if you're tuning into the body through the emotion, the sensation, which is what I started doing, and tuning into the body, then you're accessing higher processing power. And if you think about trauma, basically, if you imagine our bodies got transducers all over them, picking up signals from the outside, the environment, the people, the situation, whatever, it's evolutionary, survival. But their filters and lenses over the transducers are all caked in mud from my trauma, from all the noise and all the like. So if I heal my trauma and clear them, the transducers, so now I start getting larger amounts of cleaner data. So then I make better decisions because I have better data, more data. And so essentially, if you think about it, a lot of times I'd find that problems, people would assume that it's process, engineering, technology or something, strategy that would solve the problem. But I found in almost every case that to have the greatest impact, like that might have some impact, but the greatest impact in solving problems was actually like, it had to do with, the nonverbal. It had to do with human behavior and psychology. Like somebody wants to get promoted or they don't like somebody else or they got offended by something. Human responses and behaviors that were much more like driving factors, why teams don't get along, why people don't change behaviors and so on. So essentially, by tuning into the body and clearing the transducers of all the filters and lenses, I was able to you can start picking up on what's the real problem, because you're picking up on many more signals than you would if you're disconnected from your body and trying to do it through the conscious mind and hard data. You're missing out on 90% of communications or the data. So essentially then, if you do that, AI is nowhere near being able to pick up 9% of these nonverbal cues. So my hypothesis and my experience is that those that are developing self-awareness are the ones that are going to be thriving in the world of AI, because they're going to be able to see the whole picture and much more of the data and identify where is the real problem, and then leverage AI in order to get the data that I need, the hard data that I might need, in order to help solve this problem. So it's like in that world, AI is just a tool. It's child's play. So it's the first time that I've seen data where mindfulness or self-awareness, connection to the body, is tied to business metrics like P&L. I'll leave you with that. Thanks.